was the sheep herders?
I was the sheep herders.
That was the Bushwackers.
Oh, you
yeah,
called
sheep
yourselves the
herders.
sheep
We
herders.
were the sheep herders well before the Bushwackers.
Okay.
Vince changed us to good guys, and he changed the names to the Bushwackers because he wanted to own us.
He didn't like the sheep herder. Oh, because he wanted to change it so he could own it. He couldn't.
Yeah, own it.
He couldn't
and
claim
he didn't
sheep
want
herders.
us. He wanted us to be the good guys. He says, it's time for you to change to be the good guys. We'd been the bad guys. I'd been a bad guy from 1962 to 1988.
What's with the whole sheep gimmick? Where did
Sheep
that come
herders
from?
is because New Zealand has got 3 million people and 100 million sheep. That's what I said. We were
Are you
did you
fucking
catch
kidding
on
me?
before when I said the sheep shaggers?
No, I
Shagging sheep.
heard that. I heard that. I just don't know where it came
Yes,
from.
New Zealand's well known for that.
There's really over 100 million sheep in New
Sheep,
Zealand?
New Zealand is evergreen, mate. They burnt all the rough gorse and all the plant weed and all that, and they put grazing, they grass seeded the whole countryside, the hills and everything. We were the
Wow.
first country to do top dressing on planes. When they drop the seeds out of the wings and they coming over the pastures and that.
Yeah, yeah.
And feed the pastures. Yeah. New Zealand they were the first country to do that.
Wow.
And that, the whole country's mountainous like that.
Yeah, yeah.
They've got big mountains, but we're just covered in sheep. Sheep were everywhere.
Did you have any pet sheep?
Huh?
Did you have your own sheep?
No, I did. I was, but the sheep farms, the sheep farms in New Zealand, they're 3 or 4 miles. Some of them are 2 or 3 miles by 3 miles.
Really?
Yeah, that's a big farms.
100 million sheep. That must be
Yeah.
a big wool export.
And yeah, it was till synthetic came in. We were big in farm products. They are butter and our wool, but now everything's synthetic. That killed our economy when that synthetic stuff come out, synthetic wool and all that. They started doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
But New Zealand was big exporting wool.
So for your gimmick, you guys were called the sheep herders. Did
And
you guys?
we used to come out in sheep jackets too. White jackets with the sleeves off, thick wool like that.
Did you guys ever bring a sheep with you?
No.
Like to walk out with a sheep?
No, carry a sheep around.
You can't bring a sheep into a WWE match?
No,
I mean, Stone Cold brought out a giant fucking beer truck.
We weren't sheep herders then, mate. We were the bushwhackers.
No, I'm talking about when you were the sheep herders.
No, we never had sheep. We just carried the New Zealand flag. We were known for being nasty son of a bitches. If you go online, it says the sheep herders were hardcore before hardcore became our name brand.
Wow. So what did you guys do that was so nasty?
The way we worked, and we were blood and guts.
Just roughed them up.
Roughed them up, blood and guts. That's why we worked a lot in South America and a lot of, in the territories where where they had bloody matches all the time. And we came up with a lot of different matches that, names of a lot of different matches. Those days there were territories, mate. When we come over here, everywhere you ran 7 nights a week. Even when we went into that Grand Prix. And that they ran 7 towns. They were running 21 towns a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every night. And you come back too, you do programs with guys. Roddy Piper, Butch and me worked with Rick Martel and Roddy Piper for a year. Every night. We'd go into 6-mans. They'd bring in Jesse Ventura, or they'd bring in the Giant, and we'd bring in another guy to be an outside. And we just worked with those two, the town, so you could have storylines and plan things and do things. To spike it, and then you'd sell out. Then you'd go down to 3/4 of the house and it'd start winning. Then you spike it again and come up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what you have television for, to do angles, to set to plots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when the heel does stuff to get the people going. And that's where Vince is like at the moment, because being a public company, and he's got all those stockholders and that, he can't do heavy stuff like he did before. You know what I mean?
So when Vince bought you, When Vince
asked us to come in there.
So what was that like? What was that like? Did you meet him? Did he reach out to you? What was that?
Well, we were working for Turner at the time.
Yeah.
And we were working to get the main guys there. And we were working Cincinnati on a Saturday night. I'll always remember this. And I'm in the Gold's Gym with Butch in the morning. And I never worked my drum out so much. Butch always worked his drum at the end of a workout.
His drum?
The drum, your stomach.
Oh,
your drum.
Oh, your drum. Okay. I
your
never
boiler.
heard about that. I never heard that. I like that.
Your
Working
boiler,
my
that's
drum,
your
mate.
drum. You got to fill your drum out. That's why you go to restaurants.
That's right.
Fill your drum up.
I love that.
Or your boiler.
My fucking drum, mate.
Your boiler. And he
boiler.
was doing that. So I went to pick up my messages from my home. I was living in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Because that was the headquarters for NWA. And they were running all over the country. As far as Baltimore and Philly, and we'd go to Long Island now and again, but we never went into Manhattan or any of there or up the East Coast there. WWF was up there. That was Vince Senior. Ted Turner's television was never strong. His thing wasn't in the program, in the packages of the cable. You know, TBS wasn't strong up there till I'd say 90, 88, 90. TBS got strong in the northern parts, and it's strong everywhere now. You know what I mean? Well, that's 30 years ago. But USA Network and WN? What's another cables? A few cables, they're strong up there. Anyhow,
Yeah.
So we wouldn't come up that far. And they went to going back to Cincinnati, went and pulled up my messages, and there's a voice. It's Pat here. He says, when you got time, give me a call.
Pat Patterson?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, you know Pat.
I know Pat Patterson, yeah.
Yeah, Pat. Patricia. Anyhow, one of the best tag wrestlers ever.
Now he's like one of the top executives, right, at WWE.
Yeah, but one of the top. You know, he was one of the top. Him and Ray Stevens, the Butch and me copied a bit of their stuff too. They were one of the best tag teams ever. Anyhow, he said, "Give us a call." So I said, "That's funny." So anyhow, I give the call, and I'm on speakerphone. And the speakerphone, they were in Vince's home, not in the office. They were in his home. And I said, is Pat there? And he said, yeah, Pat. And he says, yeah, there's a guy here who wants to talk to you. And then a voice in the background said, Kiwi, I'd like to use you. I said, who are you? He said, oh, Vince McMahon here. And I'd been sending tapes to this fucking bastard since Betamax. If you know what Betamax is.
Yeah.
Early 80.
Yeah.
I've been sending to the dad, the Betamax. And then I said, every year I'd send tapes to them. Can you use us? Because that was the number one, one of the number one companies in the country,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But they only worked up north at the time. They only came down as far as Philadelphia and Baltimore, and they did Boston, and they did all that up there, but it was big money there.
Right.
Always heard, so I've been trying, but they didn't take us smaller guys at the time. They had big guys. I'm talking about guys 6'4", 6'3", and 260 up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he says, yeah, and I said, yeah. I says, yeah, I'm interested. He says, when can I see you? When can I talk to you? And I says, you just named the time, and that. And we were working, planned every day, and for NWA. And he says, right, when you get home, there'll be tickets at your door. There'll be tickets at your door when you get home. I gave him my address on the phone, and he says next Wednesday. So, and he says, all you don't have to bring anything with you. When you fly up there, you'll be flying home the same night. So we flew into Kennedy. There was a limousine up there waiting for us. We went straight up to Stamford, Connecticut, which is an hour away from Kennedy. Met Vince.
Vince Jr.?
Vince Jr., yeah. Senior was dead.
Okay.
Senior died in 4.
Okay.
3 or 4. 83 or 84, and that we met him, and that funny part is we went into the office and was sitting there, and he says to us, I'd like to bring you in as baby faces, good guys. And of course I piped up and said to him, bring us in as heels first and turn us. And he says, no, I don't do things that way. And then I found out you don't tell Caesar. His nickname was Caesar. You don't tell Caesar what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He says that, and I'd like you to be between the sheep herders and the moondogs. Work like between the sheep herders and the moondogs. The moondogs were 2 guys and had bones. Big, heavy guys were crazy and had bones. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they were heels up there. And he says that I'll start bringing you up every week for the next month to do vignettes, which you know what vignettes are. Small movies, 2 to 3 minute movies, to get you over.
Mm-hmm.
So we got home, and when we got home and there was the tickets there. 2 days later, Butch calls me up and he says, fuck, there's something here. A package here, they've sent the wrong names. It's for the Bushwackers. And I says to Butch, he says, they must have sent them to the wrong person. I says, no, he's changing our name because he wants to own it. You know what I mean? He's changing our name.
Okay.
So that's how we became the Bushwackers.